Hey, everybody, it's Matt Williams and Kelly O'Keefe from Brand Federation with yet another cold take, which is where we take a couple of minutes and talk about something we see in the marketing and branding news. And Kelly, I first want to call myself out for stepping up the wardrobe in cold takes a little bit.
Very nice. Now I feel like I'm not holding up my part of the bargain.
Anyway, we want to talk today about a news story that has come out in the last 48 hours or so about GE, General Electric, the venerable American industrial icon, coming out and breaking its business up into three separately traded units: GE Aerospace, GE Healthcare, and GE Vernova. Now, there's some interesting stuff going on, we think, behind the scenes, and that conversation can break into two parts. One is, what's the business strategy here? But second, what's the brand strategy going on behind the scenes? So let's start first with the business strategy. What do you think, Kelly, is behind this business strategic decision to bust up one of the most respected industrial brands in American history?
In some ways, it is the oldest business story of all time. It's a story of corporate hubris gone wrong. GE is one of those companies that's built up over many, many years through significant acquisitions into every conceivable category that you could be in, with the notion that we used to have with corporations that you can be in dozens of different categories all at the same time and succeed in them all. But in modern life, we have found that that doesn't usually work. And it's difficult to defend your territory on all flanks at once. And so, what are we seeing happen here? GE is saying we can't be in all three businesses successfully with the kind of focus that it takes to succeed in modern business. So, we're breaking ourselves up. Has this happened before? Yeah, like a couple of weeks ago when Unilever said maybe we're not good at ice cream and got rid of Ben and Jerry's. It happened a couple of weeks before that when Apple said maybe we don't know how to make a car and we should stick to electronics. And we've seen it years ago in lots of different places. General Motors, when they went bankrupt, got rid of Saturn, Pontiac, and Hummer, things that were non-core to their business. But even before that, they got rid of Hughes Electronics, which you might wonder, did they own Hughes Electronics? Yes, they did. Sears, as it was on its way down, got rid of Caldwell Banker and Allstate and Discover, all brands that they owned. And the list is long and deep, and it all arose from tragedy from companies that overreached.
This is the long, slow death of the American conglomerate, right? The
Yeah.
idea we can pull all these disparate businesses together under one management structure and be great at all of them and dominate the world. And we're seeing that we live in a world that's way too complicated and moves way too fast for one company to be able to effectively compete in all those categories. If I'm on the board of those companies, I want a CEO focused on one business and winning in that business, not somebody trying to manage 30 different categories and 30 different sets of competitors and 30 different environmental factors that are changing faster than we can keep up with. It's not possible anymore.
No, I don't think so. GE is the best example. It was the king of the conglomerate castle.
Yes.
Uh, it virtually built the model, and it's telling us now even we can't make it work. I think it's so much a last century issue that we're going to build up conglomerates across different categories. It doesn't work today, and good for them for acknowledging it. But I'm curious, Matt, that's from a business point of view. What about a brand point of view? What do you think about what they're doing?
So the business strategy story is the death of the conglomerate, which we've been watching for decades, like you said. From a brand strategy point of view, it's really interesting, maybe even more interesting. So what they've done is they split their companies into three separately traded units. One is GE Aerospace, one is GE Healthcare, and the third is GE Vernova. That's their energy unit.
What's a Vernova?
Vernova, interesting, right? One of these things is not like the other. Let's figure out what's going on here. So we can start to back up into some brand strategy decisions that have clearly been made by the smart higher ups in GE. One is all three of these separately traded companies now begin with the GE mark and the GE brand name first. So somebody's making a decision that says there's still a lot of value in the equity of this master brand because there are lots of different branding conventions somebody can follow when they want to split off units the way GE has, right? They can take the master brand and put a product ID next to it, which is what they've done with GE Healthcare. GE Aerospace. They can take a new name and have it endorsed by the master brand. That's like Residence Inn by Marriott or Fairfield by Marriott. Or they can say, you know what, the master brand equity doesn't really contribute to this new company. Let's get rid of the master brand altogether and just stand up a new company with a new name. GE has clearly said there's some equity in the master brand. We're going to lead with the master brand in all three of these cases. Where it gets even more interesting is the modifier after the master brand and how they've clearly chosen two different paths. And we have to try to think strategically about what would lead them to say, in healthcare and aerospace, we're just going to modify the GE master brand with the product category, GE Aerospace, GE Healthcare. They didn't do that in energy. They said GE Vernova. They created a new name for the energy unit, unlike what they did with the other two categories. So we have to kind of ask, what's going on with the energy unit? What do they see in that unit that they're not seeing in the other two?
I'm a guessing man. I have no idea, no insight. We did not do this strategy, but I'd have to say, if I was guessing, that it means that Vernova will become an independent company without the GE name at some point. And they're leveraging that equity that you talked about in the GE name as a transitional device. We
Mhm.
need it now because nobody knows who Vernova is, but we expect to let go of it later.
That
Because otherwise you'd go with a descriptor, I think.
Right. That is a super interesting hypothesis, and it makes a ton of sense because it says there must have been some kind of strategic divergence in the way they're thinking about the duration of the equity GE can carry in healthcare and aerospace and the lack of duration of the GE equity in energy. Like you said, we don't have any insight into this. We don't know. We haven't seen the research, but clearly the decision is different for energy. And it's interesting to say, yeah, I think you wouldn't create a name like Vernova if you didn't plan down the line to stand that up separate from the GE brand. And this is a transition strategy. Very interesting. So, two ways to think about the GE decision. One is as a business strategy decision and the death of the conglomerate. The other is to start to kind of backcast into the branding decisions that led them to build the portfolio of three companies the way they have. And it always comes down, Kelly, to these decisions, regardless of the way you end up going, you end up asking the same strategic questions of yourself, which is what's the level of equity in the master brand in the different category? How long do I think that equity is going to last? And based on that decision, it may have different implications for how I deal with the long-term planning for the branding of each of these units. And they've clearly made a separate decision with Vernova than they made with healthcare and aerospace.
Yeah, absolutely. Assuming that decision was based on data and logic. And honestly, it's not a bad idea to let these brands live on their own over time. Because while we said a business can have a hard time defending its territory in a lot of different businesses at the same time, a brand doesn't always stretch that far either. And consumers like brands that are focused and that they can quickly understand this is the brand in this category. When you have the same brand on companies that are not sharing any ownership anymore, it could be problematic.
Yep, very interesting. And just as a little trivia aside, our colleague Paul, who in doing the research for this realized that Vernova is a combination of two Latin derivatives, ver deriving from green and nova deriving from new. Interesting name for an energy company, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty good name. I
Yeah,
don't know
right?
who the namer was, but I'm giving them credit. Uh,
Vernova, pretty good.
yeah, you just heard it here. These two guys think you did a good job.
That's right. So thanks for tuning in to another Cold Take from Brand Federation. Leave your thoughts in the comments. Let us know what you think. And let us know if you want to geek out on this topic as much as we just did, Kelly, because this was like a new level of brand geekdom I think we've reached here.
I think so. Yeah, I'm proud of us for doing that.
Like, wear it proudly. Wear the brand geek proudly. Thanks, everybody. And we will see you on the next Brand Federation Cold Take.